All right, so the second topic that we'll cover under Unit 1 for the foundations of economics, or just your basic parts of economics, the major thing that you need to understand is the factors of production. So our essential question for this unit, for this section of notes, what are the factors of production and how do they help us satisfy our wants? So the warm-up activity, and you don't necessarily have to do this. I'm sorry, well, you do have to do this. I'm checking for completion, but it says, assume you are a business person who makes and sells pencils. You need to calculate how much it costs you to make one pencil, or the cost of input / production. Make a list of every single material or resource you would need to make one pencil. Think about the different parts. It depends on what kind of pencil you're making. Are you making a mechanical pencil or are you making a wooden pencil? If you're making a wooden pencil, you're going to have the actual wood. You're also going to have the graphite that goes in the pencil, maybe the eraser, the metal that goes on there. Consider if you're making a mechanical pencil, you're going to have the spring. You'll have to have the plastic component that goes around the lead. You'll have to have the lead itself, okay? So these are all things that go into it. An eraser. You have to have the rubber for the eraser. So different things. So share your list with a neighbor. Did you get all the same resources? So raw materials, wood, brass, graphite. You also have to have the labor that is included in producing the pencil. Factory workers. You're going to have the lumberjack that actually has to go out into the woods and cut down the tree. You might have to have the factory equipment because they have to put this stuff together. You'll have a warehouse where they put these pencils into boxes. The boxes are then shipped out, the distribution. Shipping and transportation, because then it has to get from the warehouse to the stores to sell the items. The marketing team, how are they going to sell this idea of this pencil to the public who are going to consume it? And you'll also have to have a bookkeeper to make sure you're on track with your finances, that you have not overspent on your production costs, okay? Use the space in your notes to respond to the prompts below. Please write in complete sentences. What is a good and what is a service? Okay, so this is what you're just telling me. Now, if you're recording or if you're watching the recording of the notes, you'll kind of already know this ahead of time. Okay, so what is a good? What is a service? What types of materials or resources go into making a good or service? And how do goods and services affect our economy? So what are goods and services? Goods are physical items that are used or created for selling. For example, shampoo, conditioner. Services are actions or activities done for buyers. For example, nursing, or what I'm doing now is teaching. What goods and services do you or your parents / guardians currently pay for? Okay, maybe you have someone that actually comes and cuts the grass, or your parents are old school and they make you cut the grass. Why are you willing to exchange your money for these goods and services? Some of your parents may even pay for somebody to come clean the house every couple weeks. Why are you willing to exchange your money for this? Think about, are you willing to do it? Is it, are you able to do it? You know, there's certain people, as they're not able anymore, they have to start to pay for certain things as far as help goes. Factors of production. So what's the difference between outputs and inputs? An input is a scarce resource that goes into making a product. An output is the good or services that are created using the inputs. Remember we said scarce resources, things that are going to, once they're gone, that's it. So the factors of production, inputs are used in making a product. The main categories that you will need to know for your quiz or your test are land, labor, and capital. Those are the 3 factors of production. You have land, labor, and capital combined are used to make goods and services. First thing we'll discuss is land. Now, when I say land, I'm not talking about just the physical land that you see outside and on the grass, all that. Land encompasses all natural resources. For example, soil, air, wood, animals, plants, anything that was originally there when the earth was created, before we had technology, before we had, any kind of machinery, mechanics, anything like that. What kind of natural resources do we have? What are the types of them? We have what are known as perpetual resources, resources we're unlikely to use up, like sunlight. We have renewable resources. They can be used and they can be replaced. Forests and fish. Can you create more fish? Yes. Can you create more forests? Yes, you have to plant more trees and eventually let them grow and become forests, but yes, you can replace them. Non-renewable resources are resources that are used and then gone completely, like oil and coal. They have to mine for coal, and they also have to, dig and try to find oil reserves underneath the ground or in the ocean or under the ocean. So on this section, you have to list 5 new examples of land, and this is pretty easy. So don't use the examples that you just saw. You're going to have to come up with 5. Why is land important to the production of goods and services? Think about why you would need any type of these land, natural resources. Why do you need those to produce goods and services? Next, we have labor. Labor is the effort and time put into production for which something is paid or someone is paid. For example, I'm teaching you this lesson. A plumber paid for plumbing, lawyers paid for preparing legal documents, and even a doctor paid for his services because doctors do not work for free. People in the healthcare industry do not work for free. What labor do you plan to be paid for in your first career? Now, when I say career, I'm not talking about your part-time job that you have right now. I'm talking about what are you going to be paid for? What labor do you plan to do when you enter the workforce, whether that's after you receive your degree or before if you are going straight into the workforce. Lastly, we have capital. What are the 2 types of capital in economics? The first thing that you need to understand is we have human capital, which is the expertise, experience, skill, education, and knowledge of laborers. Usually, the higher the level of human capital, the more a laborer is paid. So that means that in order for you to move up in your positions, especially if you're just in the workforce in general, you will have to get more certifications. So another option is if you are, depending on if you're in the medical field, if you're a nurse, for example, they will have to be certified to become a nurse or to be a nurse. They will also then get credentialed in other areas. That way it will boost kind of their skills, and it will also boost their pay. Teachers, if you want to become a teacher for you to increase your paycheck, depending on where you're at, typically you would want to get your master's degree and maybe even your EDD, okay, which is kind of like a doctorate of education, and maybe you would even want to be national board certified. Example, the training and education a teacher needs to teach students. Physical capital is the other type of human capital. You have capital goods, which are physical, man-made tools, machines, and resources involved in the production process. For example, think about the Mercedes factory. They have a production system in place, okay, where they have each different part of the car is being added on. It's an assembly line. Everything as it goes through the process, something is being added on each point. So therefore, production is never really stopped. Example is an assembly line in a factory. That would be both physical capital. Okay. What's the difference between labor and human capital? Labor is the act itself. Okay. And human capital is the skills that you need to know in order to, be good at your job. Okay. What kind of human capital do you currently have or plan to have when you get your first career? What is an entrepreneur? An entrepreneur is a risk taker who combines the factors of production and they create goods and services. They are technically the backbone of the American economy because we have thinkers in the United States. Like I said, that that TV show Shark Tank. Those are all examples of entrepreneurs, people who are trying to own their own business. They're creating something, they are innovating, they are trying to make something that's never, been around before, make things easier. They get investors and they start their own business, and now they are, own their own company. So anything that's ever really been invented, that is kind of how we move along. Now, I will also say that in a market economy or free enterprise economy, you will find entrepreneurs. Under a command economy, which we'll get into a little bit later, you will not find that. You will not find the newest technology. You will not find the newest resources because ultimately, under a command economy, the motivation is not there. The reason we have this in the United States under this free enterprise system is because you are, if you create something, if you invent something, the motivation or the incentive for you is money. okay? You don't have that in a command economy where the government runs everything and they tell you what to produce. There is no incentive. So that's why the United States is unique. Name a few famous entrepreneurs. What goods or services did they create? Think about Mark Zuckerberg. What did he do? He is the one that we credit for creating Facebook. You also have Bill Gates. He created Microsoft. Oh gosh, Oprah. Think about what all she's done. We have a lot of people who we look at as entrepreneurs. I think what Jeff Bezos might have been the one that created Amazon. Okay. Lastly, productivity. How do economists measure productivity? Productivity means output divided by input. So they are looking at the output and they are dividing it by how much they put in. And if they make more than that, that means that they have made a profit. Sometimes, though, because they don't want to overmake something, and if they don't sell, they have lost money. So we'll get into all this a little bit later, but this is the factors of production.